Hi everyone, myself Vamsi Krishna. In this session, we are going to discuss how to create a Oracle RDS instance and how to connect to it using SQL Workbench from outside network. We'll get started with the steps. Go to the services. In the services, go to database section and click on RDS. RDS supports 6 types of database engines. Out of that, we are preferring Oracle for this session. Even we can create MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server as well. Click on DB instances, create database. And if you see this, we have 6 types of database engine: Aurora, MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. I'm going to select Oracle for this session. Select Oracle. And inside Oracle, you have Oracle Enterprise Edition, Oracle Standard Edition, Oracle Standard Edition 1 and Standard Edition 2. I'm going to use Oracle Enterprise Edition for this. And you have different Oracle versions. I'm going with Oracle 19.0.0. Scroll down and you have production and you have dev test. I'm selecting dev test. And now you have DB instance identifier name. You can say Oracle database application, something. Okay, you can say Oracle database application. And in the credential settings, our username is admin. Password, you can keep anything. Let me keep something like upper loyal Oracle #436. I'm keeping this as password. Basically, we just need to give uppercase, lowercase, special characters, all these things. I have given this in the password and confirm password section. DB instance size, you can use standard classes M, or if you want memory optimized for input-output operations per second, you can go for R and X classes. Next, in the additional configuration, if you want, you can override few fields. I'm not touching that. Scroll down, and in the connectivity section, if we want to connect from outside, we need to make publicly accessible as yes. If you want to connect within a VPC, you need to make publicly accessible as no. If you see, RDS will not assign IP address to the database. Only Amazon EC2 instances can connect to your database. If at all you are not connecting from EC2, and if you want to connect from outside, your publicly access should be yes. And I'm going with default availability zone. I'm not touching anything. Database authentication is password authentication. All this looks good. Click on create database. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to create a database. In the meantime, we will see what are various tools available to connect to this RDS instance. I'm going to use SQL Workbench for this session. You can, I'll show you how to use that. You can download SQL Workbench, download, and scroll on. This is the SQL Workbench website. Go to the SQL Workbench and you need to download the SQL Workbench. And if you see, SQL Workbench requires Java 8 or later. Using Java 11 or later is highly recommended, or you can use Java 8 as well. I already have Java 8 in my system. That's why I can use this SQL Workbench directly. If someone is doing the setup for the first time, you need to install Java 8 in your Windows machine, and then only you can use SQL Workbench. Scroll down and click here, generic package for all systems, including all optional libraries. You need to download this one. Click on this. Now this is downloading. We'll wait for that to get downloaded. And next, using SQL Workbench, we need to connect to Oracle driver. For that also, SQL Workbench website has given certain documentation. We need to use JDBC concept, Java database connectivity. And using that JDBC concept, we can connect to the Oracle. If you scroll down, these are popular JDBC driver. In our case, we are going to use Oracle driver, right? Oracle driver, oracle.jdbc.oracle driver, and we need to use OJDBC 8 jar. You can click on this and you can download Oracle OJDBC 8 jar. Scroll down. You can click on this. I'm using 12C releases. You will have the jar here, or else you can use Oracle 19 as well. You can use Oracle database 19C. Click on this. You can download OJDBC 8 jar. In my case, it is already there. I'm canceling it. I already downloaded it. We just need SQL Workbench, and to use SQL Workbench, you need to install Java in your machine, and then you need a Oracle driver. For that, we can go to SQL Workbench website. From there, we can download the driver. This is the link which we need to use. JDBC setup. You will have Oracle link. Go to Oracle link and download it from there. Okay. Now our SQL Workbench got downloaded. Show in folder. I'll cut this. I'll go to my folder and I'll paste it here. This is my SQL Workbench, and you can extract this. Once it is extracted, you can open this. This is the one which we downloaded. This is how it looks. And we have SQL Workbench application, and we have SQL Workbench 64 application. We need to use SQL Workbench 64 application because mine is 64-bit. And before using this, we need to make sure we have Java installed. Let me open the command line and show Java is already installed in my case. Java is already installed. Once Java is installed, you can go ahead and click on SQL Workbench 64. Yeah, this is how SQL Workbench UI screen looks. Now we'll go to RDS and we will see whether our server got created or not. Click on Oracle DB identifier. Scroll down. We need to wait until we get endpoint and port number. Once we get endpoint and port number, we will be able to connect to Oracle RDS instance from our SQL Workbench. But before that, you can create the setup. Go to drivers and say you can say driver, select the driver as Oracle driver. This is the Oracle driver, and username is admin. Password is this one, and then JDBC colon Oracle colon Thielen colon @ host name we don't know, port number we know, and service name is nothing but database name. You can click on configuration. Database name is ORCL. We can mention this. Database name is ORCL. and Oracle port number is 1521. We will be left with endpoint, which is nothing but host name. We need to wait until we get endpoint. Go to connectivity and security. We need to wait until we get endpoint. And along with this endpoint, we need to provide driver as well. Go bottom. Here you have something called manage drivers. Browse for your downloads folder and look for your driver. I have OJDBC 8 jar, which we downloaded. I am using this. Perfect. Now only thing which we are left with is hostname. We'll wait until this gives us the endpoint. Once we get the endpoint, we should be able to connect to the database. This is under creation. It just takes some more time. Once we get the endpoint, we should be able to connect to that. It usually takes around 10 minutes. We need to wait until we get endpoint. I'll pause the screen until we get endpoint. If you see we got the endpoint, copy this endpoint from the connectivity and security. We got the endpoint. Go to here and change the host name with the endpoint. This is the endpoint. And now you have a test button here. You can click on this test just to verify whether these settings are proper or not. Click on test. It is connecting to the RDS database. We will wait some more time. Seems like it is not yet ready. It is still in the configuration state. We'll just wait 1 minute and try again. Okay, I suspect the security groups. Let us verify the security groups so that this is allowed or not. We'll open the security group. In the security groups, we need to verify whether this is allowed or not. Open the security group. In the security group, we need to allow it to connect from outside network. Click on security group ID. Edit inbound rules. Yeah, this is the issue. Here you change the security group and you mention my IP. This is our network IP. If you simply type my IP, this is our network IP 106. This is mine. In case of you, the IP will be different. This is my network IP. Save rules. And in the SQL Workbench, we can just select OJDBC 8 itself. OJDBC 8 jar is enough. And then click on test. Now it should connect because previously it is a network issue. Now we should be able to connect to the Oracle database. Connection successful. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now you can create a table here. You can create a table and inside that you can insert data. And if you want, you can select data. And once everything is done, you can commit the transaction. Once everything is done, you need to commit the transaction. Perfect. This is how we need to create a RDS instance and connect to the RDS instance using SQL Workbench. Thanks everyone for watching this video.